Okay, welcome to the Jim Acosta Show. We are now 4 days away from No Kings 2 coming up this Saturday. House Speaker Mike Johnson and other Republican leaders are calling No Kings a, quote, hate America rally. In the meantime, Donald Trump keeps talking like a king/dictator by repeatedly teasing the idea of invoking the Insurrection Act to deploy more American troops in American cities. My big guest this hour is House Democrat Jim Himes. He's the ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, good to see you.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
Hey, lots of ground to cover. I don't want to throw too much at you all at once, but I mean, just on the way back from the Middle East, Trump was talking about the Insurrection Act again. I don't know how much you take any of this seriously, but we could play another clip of him talking about it and talk about it on the other side and get right into this.
The lower courts
using the Insurrection Act?
Well, I could use it. If I wanted to, I could use it. Look, that's a very simple answer. I'm allowed to use the Insurrection Act. In fact, that was on Stephanopoulos today, his Sloppodopoulos show. They asked Sloppy Chris Christie about the Insurrection Act. He said, well, if you're talking about the Insurrection Act, he's got the absolute right to use that.
So, of course, Trump mischaracterizing what people are saying and of course, mischaracterizing what the law says. But he keeps talking about this as if he's going to do it. Do we just wait until he does it and then we react to it? I mean, do you have thoughts on whether he can be stopped ahead of time? I mean, it sounds like this is going to happen at some point. He's going to do this.
Yeah. Look, the whole Trump thing is to just push and push and push and push until either the courts or somebody tells you can't keep going. It's largely been the courts. And I mean, look, he's not wrong. The president has the authority, and lots of presidents have invoked it to invoke the Insurrection Act. Now, presumably, and I've read the law, that is in response to an insurrection, and you don't have anything even resembling an insurrection. And quite frankly, the quote you gave about no kings, shame on the speaker, right? Here you have a loyal opposition. The Democratic Party is a loyal opposition that sees things differently, and they're calling it hate America. I mean, it's particularly absurd, right? Because if there's two words that define why we have America, those two words would be no kings, right? So, and I just
love America more than hate. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, no, and this country, of course, has a long tradition of popular protest. When I was a tiny little kid, protests against the Vietnam War. It's what we do, right? It's what we do to be a better country. And so, again, it's just all part of this trying to create the image in a limited number of people's minds, because most people aren't going to fall for it, that we're involved in some crazy civil war. And what troubles me about that, of course, is apart from the fact that it toxifies our politics, is that it really creates a danger of violence. You're not going to go out and try to kill somebody who wants, to expand Medicare, but you may very well kill somebody who is defined as a terrorist, which is language, of course, that the White House uses for its political opposition.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's almost as though he is trying to stoke something so he can respond with the Insurrection Act. And I mean, you can't really read his mind or anything. Speaking of the Middle East, I did want to talk about that just briefly and touch on it because, I mean, yesterday they made it sound as though peace is at hand. Peace in the Middle East they're throwing flowers and there are doves flying and all of this kind of stuff. And I mean, just overnight, we found out that the Israelis had shot and killed 5 Palestinians, I believe, in Gaza. They had announced that they were going to pause food and aid truck shipments because of the deceased hostages had not been returned to Israel. Apparently, Hamas has been executing people in the streets reportedly. And it doesn't sound to me like peace is at hand. And it sounds like not just Donald Trump in the White House and the Israelis and so on. It sounds as though much of the media got ahead of itself and over its skis and sort of pronouncing this as this major thing. I mean, obviously, it's good to see hostages come home, but it sounds as though everything else that's been described is a bit overhyped.
Yeah. Jim, this is classic situation. 3 things are absolutely true. Number one, 28 hostages were released. Thank God. I mean, can you imagine the horror that they were experiencing? They got released. Number two, a lot of Gazans are returning to their homes, and they are not worrying right now about being obliterated by artillery or by missiles or by planes. God, thank you. And by the way, let's give credit where credit is due. Joe Biden didn't get that deal done. He worked very hard at it. He may have set the stage for it to occur, but Donald Trump got it done. So, kudos, credit where credit is due. And the third thing that is absolutely,
do you think Netanyahu, just was not going to give that to Biden? You think he maybe stuck it to Biden a little bit by holding on to this process and waiting on it? So Trump could get
but also
the win.
Biden didn't call Netanyahu into the Oval Office, hold a phone and say, call the Qataris and say you're sorry, right? Again, I'm not a Trump fan, but the guy does know how to flex his muscles. And so, but absolutely is both and, right? Biden could have turned up the pressure a little bit more on the prime minister, but I also think the prime minister had no interest in dealing with Joe Biden or with Democrats generally, which is a whole other conversation. But anyway, the third thing that is true that maybe in the long run, most important here is that, and I'll say number one and number two, thank God that the hostages were released and that maybe there's going to be an end to the carnage, or at least a temporary end to the carnage in Gaza. But boy, do we have a long way to go. I mean, somebody once said the Middle East is where dreams go to die. And anybody who's putting a very big bet that there's going to be, peach ice cream and roses and reconstruction starting next week, you are out of your mind. So we have a lot of work to do to turn this into a lasting peace.
And I mean, getting back to this no kings, no dictators thing, I mean, the other thing that's been happening that's sort of outside of the legal process is this continuation of strikes on boats off the coast of Venezuela that the administration says they're suspected drug traffickers. You're the ranking member on the Intelligence Committee. Do we know for a fact that those were all drug traffickers that have been blown up? Apparently, there were 6 more that were killed just in the last day. What do we know about that?
Well, let's not bury the lead here. I mean, let's get to whether they're drug traffickers or not, but let's not bury the lead here, right? We are murdering people in the Caribbean. We are without authority and illegally killing people in boats right now. And it's pretty staggering when you consider that for 2.5 centuries, the U.S. military has worked very, very hard to avoid killing civilians, and now they're deliberately targeting civilians. The president does not have the authority, and he's throwing up all sorts of chaff like, oh, well, these are terrorist organizations. Well, no, they're not. They're bad, and we should be doing everything and pulling out all the stops to stop them. But no, they are not terrorist organizations. There is a difference between a cartel and ISIS, and if you lose the meaning of that difference, you got a real problem. So there is no legal authority for these strikes to be occurring. And I am just mind blown that the entire chain of command, and that's a pretty long chain of command from an order in the Oval Office right down to the enlisted individual who pulls a trigger, is saying like, okay, no problem. We're just going to target these civilians. But to your question, look, I know the intelligence community very well. I suspect that these guys are in fact drug traffickers, right? But you know what we do with drug traffickers? We interdict them, we arrest them because A, that's the legal thing to do, but B, because when you arrest them, you get to interrogate them. You find out who their bosses are. You find out where they were going. When you turn them into pink mist in the middle of the Caribbean, apart from breaking the law, you're giving up an awful lot of intelligence gathering capabilities and pissing off people like Colombia and the surrounding countries that are absolutely essential to our anti-drug efforts in the region.
Yeah. And I mean, speaking of just operating outside the law, I mean, there's also what's been taking place with the shutdown. And I mean, perhaps the viewers can see there's a theme here. Trump just operating outside the law at every turn. They are planning to fire more federal workers, according to Politico. This is something that the Office of Management and Budget has said that they're going to do. But they posted on X, pay the troops, pay law enforcement, continue the RIS, reductions in force, and wait. Do they have, speaking of legal authority, do they have the legal authority to continue to pay the military and law enforcement? We want them to get paid. We love that they get paid, and then lay off whoever they want willy-nilly. That sounds like, I mean, why even have a Congress anymore? Why have government? Why have shutdowns?
Exactly.
Why have appropriations? It sounds like the gold can just be presented to the dealer, and then he can decide how to spend it. Is that the government now?
Well, and you framed it exactly right. Look, the fact that our troops, many of whom are young people with no savings, are going to miss a paycheck because of the lack of competence of the Congress of the United States and the lawlessness of the president is a real bummer. And I really do want them to get paid. But no, it is probably not illegal to take money that Congress appropriated for one purpose and say we're going to use it for a different purpose. If Joe Biden had done that, my Republican colleagues would be burning this building down right now. And I say that advisedly because they tried that once, but I shouldn't. It wasn't my Republican colleagues, but we know that they would be raising all kinds of hell about that. We're a Democratic president to be so obviously violating the Constitution. But the other thing, Jim, is that this is probably the 6th or 7th shutdown I have seen, and I fear that we're going the wrong direction. Meaning, Social Security checks go out, Medicare payments get made, the troops get paid, law enforcement get. Pretty soon, this is going to be something we do every month, right? And so, what I'd like to see is that the moment there isn't a budget, nobody in Congress gets paid. You don't get to go home. Your flights home are not reimbursed, and you sit in this chamber until you get a budget done. So, I don't know whether checks are going out to military members tomorrow or not. It doesn't feel to me like it would be legal, but obviously the answer here is to get this damn shutdown done. And start to act like we have a government that is commensurate with the quality of our country and of our people.
But I guess part of the issue is that as a Democrats in Congress really don't have the ability legally to stop Trump from acting like a dictator and doing these kinds of things, making these kinds of ad hoc decisions on the fly with Russ Vogt over at OMB and deciding which part of the government they want to pay for and which they don't. I mean, I suppose you could take them to court or somebody could take them to court and challenge this in the courts. But it seems to me there's nothing really stopping him from doing this. And
yeah. Well, look, there was a time, maybe even as early as 8 months ago when we had co-equal branches of government. And, anybody who's read the first couple of pages of the Constitution knows that the Congress is designed to be a check on the power of the president. I certainly wasn't shy about being a check on the power of Barack Obama, with whom I served, or Joe Biden, with whom I served. I was perfectly willing to say no to them. And you have a real problem when you don't have, with one or two exceptions, you don't have a single Republican in this building who is willing to say no to the president. What you get when you have that, especially when the American people have decided that the House and the Senate should be controlled by the Republicans, what you have is a Congress that is sound asleep. And that's a real problem because it just leaves the courts and, of course, the media. The media does some pretty good reporting on some of this stuff. And it leads back to the No Kings rally. It leaves something really important, which is public sentiment. Trump may say he doesn't care about what, Democrats in democratic states do or say, but he does. He looks at polling an awful lot. And when his numbers are going down as they are, you're going to see his behavior change.
Yeah. And to get back into your wheelhouse a little bit, there was this odd thing that Pete Hegseth, the self-described Secretary of War, said the other day, even though legally he's the Secretary of Defense. He said that the federal government had reached an agreement, this is according to the Associated Press, with Qatar to build a facility at an Air Force base in Idaho. That would be, I guess, a Qatari training and maintenance facility. And I'm just curious, what do we know about this? Is this something that was already kind of in the works anyway? And maybe it's not that big of a deal, I suppose, to both parties, but it sounds like something that Republicans would have screamed about a couple of years ago.
And they did, right? A number of Republicans raised a little bit of hell about it. And now, by the way, they never would do that if Donald Trump said it was the right thing to do, because there's a difference between the way they think about Pete Hegseth and the way they think about Donald Trump. But, look, I don't know exactly what is planned for that. We have a massive air base in Qatar, so maybe there's a deal whereby they get to train or service their aircraft on this facility. But I'll tell you one thing for sure is, if Hegseth had any decent communications people, you and I wouldn't be wondering what this is all about. They would have been very clear about it. And, at the end of the day, they created yet another Pete Hegseth judgment question, which doesn't, along with the scandal of I guess there's exactly one news network that has said that they will abide by Pete Hegseth's accreditation policies.
Yeah, what did you think about that? Apparently, OAN has said they're the only news outlet, if you want to call them that, a TV outlet in Washington that has said that they're going to abide by these new Pentagon press restrictions. Every other news outlet, including Fox, and I know people say that's not a news outlet. I say it's not a news outlet, but they've signed up. They've said, no, we're not going to sign on to this. What is going on at the Pentagon? They don't want, they're trying to make reporters sign on to this thing that says We won't report on classified information. We won't, putting all these restrictions. It doesn't sound like a free press. Again, sounds like something kings and dictators would do. But
yeah, no, and Hegseth is trying to, you can tell he was a little embarrassed by this failure because now he's not going to have any reporters in the Pentagon, which, believe me, reporters are lifeblood or oxygen or whatever you want to call it to the MAGA favorites. He's going to have, as you point out, exactly one reporter sitting in a big room. So he screwed this up, right? And he tried to, if you look at the press conference or the conversation that just happened in the cabinet room, Pete Hegseth was like, oh, this is nothing. We're just not letting them wander around. And they need to show their badge. Well, no, the rules also say that you will pre-clear your stories with the Pentagon brass, which is, completely inconsistent with what reporters do. And by the way, the First Amendment to the Constitution. So I guess there's a couple ways to look at it. One way to look at it is this is just yet another mess that Pete Hegseth has created. Because the Cutter thing, I don't imagine that was welcome in MAGA circles. Now the press thing, this goes back to Pete Hegseth given operational details of an airstrike on a signal chat with Jeffrey Goldberg, a reporter on it. This guy is just generating distraction after distraction after distraction. And the reason I put it that way is guess who really doesn't like these distractions? The big boss, El Queso Grande, Donald Trump. So at some point, I think Trump is going to get a little annoyed by all this clowning around.
Yeah, no, there's no question about it. But, getting back to this issue of reporters and journalists reporting on classified information, my understanding is, because, I worked at a big news organization for a long time, and you've been on the intelligence committee for a long time, so you could speak to this too, is that a lot of news organizations exercise pretty great restraint when it comes to reporting anything that's remotely classified. And there have been lots of examples, we don't have to go over them, where news organizations have held back on reporting things that they've come across at the urging of a Republican or Democratic administration. And so it seems to me that what Hegseth is doing is really just about imposing controls on something he just doesn't really understand very well, which is a free press. He's just been a TV host over at Fox.
Yeah, no, that's right. And he has this ridiculous idea that he can somehow control the message. It is true that it is really problematic when classified information gets out there. And you're exactly right. I remember talking to Jeffrey Goldberg, by the way, when he was on that signal chat. He was torturing himself because he had operational details of a strike that hadn't happened yet, right? Jeffrey Goldberg did the right thing. He didn't say anything about it until after that strike was taken. So you're absolutely right. The media is generally responsible. But let me take you back to why this is important. MAGA is all about the establishment and the deep state is lying to the American people. Let's talk about the Pentagon Papers. The Pentagon Papers, of course, famously were the Washington Post reporting the fact that the Pentagon and senior people in Washington were lying to the American people about the Vietnam War. 50,000 dead Americans in the Vietnam War. The Pentagon and the senior most people in the government are lying to the American people. The Washington Post gets the Pentagon Papers, which incriminates them, and they did all the right things, right? They made sure they didn't publish anything that would put somebody at risk. But as a result of the publishing of the Pentagon Papers, which I'm sure was super uncomfortable for the Pentagon at the time, the American people learned that they'd just been lied to. That's important stuff.
Yeah. It's very important stuff. And, you may have hit the nail on the head there. They don't like, maybe Hegseth and company don't like the fact that the press occasionally reports on lies. And, we get a lot of that these days. But the other thing that strikes me as very odd, Congressman, is that there's talk that Donald Trump wants to give a $20 billion bailout to Argentina in the middle of a government shutdown, while farmers are taking it on the chin with these tariffs. What's going on with that? If I may ask it in that sort of colloquial way.
I'm old enough to remember when the bailout of America in 2008, 2009, which, by the way, was bipartisan. It started under George W. Bush and it continued under Obama. I remember when that destroyed our politics, right? Like the Tea Party got started because we bailed out America. Yeah,
they would say, where's my bailout? Yeah.
No, Donald Trump is bailing out Argentina. And, the MAGA folks are just as quiet as can be. But, the angle on this that I'm interested in, Jim, is why is he bailing out Argentina? He's bailing out Argentina because he loves Milei, because Milei is sort of a MAGA guy, right?
MAGA guy.
And, he sits there in that press conference and says, oh, yeah, in the shutdown, we're closing down democratic projects all over the world. It'll just be democratic programs, not Republican ones, just democratic ones that we shut down. So, maybe it's time for the American people to step back and say, hey, maybe I love it when Donald Trump is shutting down blue projects in democratic states. But, what comes around goes around, or what goes around comes around, right?
Yeah.
And if you're comfortable with this, wait until we have a Democratic president. The Democratic president is bailing out whatever the hell country he wants because he likes that, left-wing leader. And by the way, canceling and explicitly saying he's canceling projects in Republican states. Is this really where we want the country to be?
Well, and then there's the other, the flip side of that is that a lot of so-called Democrat programs that Donald Trump is talking about are popular with MAGA Republicans. They just don't realize it.
That's right.
Things like Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, those are programs that they don't like very much on the Republican side. But I've been to a lot of Trump rallies, and I can assure you that a lot of the folks who go to those rallies are partaking in government programs, assistance programs.
My state of Connecticut has a Democratic governor, 2 Democratic senators, and 5 Democratic House members. And the state of Alabama or Mississippi, I think it's all Republicans. One way to think about tax transfers in this country is that the blue state of Connecticut is putting gobs of cash onto a conveyor belt to the state of Mississippi and Alabama, right? And so, it is ironic that they're attacking not just where their tax subsidies or where their subsidies come from, but they're attacking the economic engines that allow this country to have prosperity. Where are the most vibrant places, economically vibrant places in the country? They're in California, they're in New York, they're in Massachusetts. So fine, keep attacking to them. Eventually this country is going to look like Bolivia in 1952.
Yeah. Well, let's hope not. And maybe a No Kings protest or two might halt that from happening before it comes to pass. But Congressman Himes, great to see you as always. Thanks for doing it.
Thanks a lot, Jim.
Good catching up. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. And so, you heard it right there. The congressman is a little suspicious of a $20 billion bailout to Argentina. There are times when I say the headlines and it just feels like it's not really a headline. It feels like that there's no way that's happening. There's no way that Donald Trump is bailing out Argentina to the tune of $20 billion during a government shutdown when people aren't getting paid and farmers are taking it on the chin as a result of tariffs. It seems to me that would be a reason to have a rally. The congressman is right. They had Tea Party rallies back in those days of the early days of the Obama administration where they would hold up signs saying, "Where's my bailout?" Speaking of protests, speaking of rallies, one of the groups that is involved with the No Kings rally day 2, part 2, coming up this Saturday is the Seneca Project and my friend Tara Setmayer with the Seneca Project. She's with us now. Tara, great to see you.
Always a pleasure to join you, Jim. It's been a little bit.
It's been a second, but no, I'm glad to have you on. And it's interesting. I sort of teed up the show talking about No Kings coming up on Saturday, talked about how Mike Johnson and I guess others now are calling it in the Republican Party, calling it a hate America rally and so on. And then I sort of flowed into another question with Congressman Himes, and he totally wanted to go off on what Mike Johnson has said. But, Tara Setmayer, I want to ask you for your response when Mike Johnson says this is a hate America rally. Apparently Tom Emmer and a bunch of others in the House saying it's a hate America rally. What do you have to say to that? It's nuts.
And they also said we're a bunch of paid protesters, right? They're a bunch of paid agitators.
And Antifa and
right. Domestic terrorists. I'm still waiting on my check. Is it in the mail? I'm still waiting on it. It's ridiculous. Listen, this is what I say to all of those Republicans that think that Americans, millions and millions of Americans, potentially at historic numbers, like back in June, are gathering together to express their First Amendment rights to protest a government who is oppressing them. How dare they call this a hate America rally? How dare they? These are the same people who are lapdogs, who are on their knees to Donald Trump, who is decimating our country, decimating our government, decimating science and programs that are important to the American people, decimating our standing in the world, decimating our democratic norms, institutions, and ideals. And they have the audacity to say that those of us that are standing up and saying not no, but hell no to what Donald Trump is doing to us, that we're the ones that hate America. They hate everything that makes America great. We represent what makes America great. And that starts with exercising our First Amendment right to protest what Donald Trump and his fascist authoritarian henchmen are trying to foist on this country.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
how dare they?
Yeah, no, I mean, the last Hate America rally I think I saw was on January 6th.
Amen to that.
They hated democracy. They hated that we had an election that Donald Trump didn't win. So they had a rally on the Ellipse, and then they stormed the Capitol, and they caused an insurrection.
That's right.
And that's a hate. That's when you hate it. You hate America when you hate that we have elections, when we have democracy.
Yes, and when you try to stop the peaceful transfer of power.
Right.
When you attack police officers who are there protecting the democratic peaceful transfer of power, when you say kill him with his own gun, when you say things like, all the awful things that happened on January 6th, and then you turn around and on your inauguration day, you pardon those insurrectionist bastards, and you allow someone like Elon Musk to throw up a Nazi sign, not once, but twice at your inauguration celebration. And we're the problem? This is the thing here. Look, we cannot let these people gaslight the American people into who's doing what and what's actually constitutional and what actually is American. The Republicans have been very good at co-opting this. That's why the first No Kings rally in June was such a powerful testimony. You saw a sea of American flags. You saw a sea of humanity standing up saying, this is what democracy looks like. Yeah. And they hate it. They can't.
And it was so peaceful.
Yes, it was.
There was no violence. It was peaceful. It was loving. Everybody. I mean,
yes.
What did Donald Trump once call January 6th? A love fest? I mean, No King's Day is a love fest. To me, that's a love fest.
That's right. It's a love letter to America.
Yeah.
It's a love letter to our democracy and what generations before us have stood up to, and when they've had to rise to the occasion when our freedoms are under threat. We have seen the American people rise up and protest and exercise our rights. That has changed the course of history. And we are now at another inflection point where history is calling. Will we answer? That's what we are faced with when we are looking. People look, well, what can I do? What can I do? It starts here. Let our voices be heard. And in a collective righteous anger, when the American people stand up with righteous anger, things change. Because they have to be, a message has to be sent. And this is one of the ways to do that. It starts here. It started in June. It's happening again now. Seneca Project has partnered with Indivisible. We partnered with Hold the Line last time and Indivisible to help promote this, to galvanize people. That's what we do with the Seneca Project. We galvanize women and democracy defenders to help save our democracy. And it's so important that we do this now. They are trying everything to squash dissent. They're trying to silence us. They're trying to intimidate us. The Stephen Miller wackos of the world who are out here like Nazi stormtroopers yelling and screaming about the president's plenary power to do whatever the hell he wants is so far from what the American experiment and ideal represents that we have to stand up and say, no, and no. We don't. This is America. We don't do kinks.
Yeah, it's a real king dictator behavior that we're seeing. And you guys at the Seneca Project, the ladies at the Seneca Project, I should say, put out a nice video to promote the fact that this is happening, coming up on Saturday with the great folks at Indivisible. Let's watch it and talk about it.
We are together as one.
I'm standing right here. I ain't got no fear, no fear. Whole world is watching and I hope we ready. Been through a whole lot, but we overcome.
People need to come together.
No kings, no kings. I was waiting for this and now it's my turn.
This is restoring my faith in humanity.
We're stronger together.
We got the power.
I love this country.
Love it. Love it.
Yes.
Love the vibes there.
Yes, thank you. That's the
but
second one we did. We did another one on Saturday that we released with them that has gone uber viral already. It's got, I don't know, like 500,000 views or something on
good.
Instagram. Yes, that's this one, that one we called FOMO. You don't want to miss out. You want to be
That's
there.
true.
And this one we called Stand Up because it like I said, history is calling. And are we going to meet the moment as Americans? And I think it starts there. And shout out to New York Betty, our editing team that helped us put that together.
Yeah, no, it's a great video. And I love what that one woman says in the middle of it. It's giving me faith in humanity. It's restoring my
Yes.
faith in humanity. That's what I heard from people the last No King's Day when it happened. What was it, on Donald Trump's dictator birthday? He tried to have the military parade in downtown Washington, and it was so quiet. Remember the squeaky wheels of the tanks? When the tanks went by, you heard that.
That was the
I love that. I
was
love the squeaky wheels.
Yes, the squeaky wheel of the sad little tank by itself,
Little tank
squeaking. It was like that represented everything that stupid parade was. And I feel sorry for the men and women in uniform who were forced to have to participate in that. It's they're
still
just
using
trying to
them as
serve their
props.
country. Yeah,
He's still using them as props.
I know, and he always has. That's the thing. He always has. And he continues to betray our men and women in uniform because he just uses them as political pawns. But yet who's standing in line at food banks because the government is shut down. Our military families. I saw a video of that and it broke my heart and also pissed me off. And it should piss off every American that honors our men and women in uniform who are serving this country, that they should ever have to stand in line at a fucking food bank because Donald Trump is throwing a temper tantrum with the Mike Johnsons of the world. You want to talk about people who hate America? That's what they're doing to our men and women in uniform. They're betraying them and betraying
he wants to
everything
give $20
they stand for every
billion
day.
to Argentina.
Exactly. What happened to America first?
I'm sorry. What happened to make America great again? What happened to America first? I mean, that's all out the window.
Yes.
The other
while
thing
our farmers
are
suffering, committing suicide at record rates because they're losing their family farms because of Donald Trump. Speaking of another group who were supportive of Donald Trump, who he has betrayed.
He sticks it to his own
all
people.
Of them. That's correct.
That's what he does. And the other thing that you and I haven't really had a chance to chat about, and it's really been on the rise, is what is happening with ICE and this horrendous, just outlandish, un-American, thuggish, Putin-esque behavior that we're seeing on the part of ICE out on the streets. I've been showing these videos just about every day. We have another video of them. I guess it was like tackling a teenager in front of her house in Illinois.
Crazy.
Let's play that one and show that because it's just outrageous. Look at this.
Yeah, 15-year-old girl.
I can't hear people. It's all back there.
It's totally sick. And I guess Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthy, this happened in his district, and he tweeted, despite what some, including at DHS, are claiming, this video isn't from a year ago in Chicago. It was Friday in Hoffman Estates. In my district, he says, a street I've walked myself. It appears to show a child being violently detained by ICE. It's real, and I'm demanding accountability. But this is just, as I like to say on my show, another day that ends in Y. We have another video of ICE chasing after a guy on a bicycle, and they're screaming at him saying, "Don't you follow us." Look at this.
For what?
They're saying, if you follow us, you will be arrested.
Right.
This is a reporter, local news reporter in Chicago, got this video. And I guess there's a bystander who's whistling to call attention to what ICE was doing. There's a lot of this citizen sort of activity that's been going on to try to scare ICE off from doing crazy shit because the phones are out, the cameras are out.
Thank God.
They just sort of run. These guys are running wild, masked, unmarked cars, running wild, grabbing people.
Jim, I got to tell you, at Seneca Project, we put out a video called Code Red last week. My co-founder Michelle Kinney put it together and did a compilation of a bunch of these. These are new, so it didn't make that cut, but it's like 5 minutes of the most heartbreaking, infuriating, inhumane, cruel acts, and I would argue illegal and against violation of civil rights and civil liberties in this country by ICE and federal officers, Border Patrol, ICE, and it is infuriating. What are we doing? Is this really what people voted for? I mean, maybe some people did. Some of the more obnoxious MAGAs who think the cruelty is the point and they get off on that. Well, you know what? There are more of us than there are of those people. And I can't imagine that the people who voted for the lowering the cost of the price of eggs are okay with what's happening. And people need to watch these videos. They need to watch these things. God bless the American people who have taken, the brave American citizens who have used their phones to document what's going on, because Kristi Noem and the Stephen Millers and these people, Tom Homans, that corrupt bastard, all of these people, they are lying, trying to say that this is good. They're using our taxpayer dollars to produce these Hollywood-style propaganda videos, threatening people, terrorizing people, and it's not okay. Like we should not be okay with this. People who know me, you know me, Jim. People who have been following my political career know that I am a supporter of law enforcement. My husband is a federal officer, 25 years. My grandfather was a police officer. He was captain of my hometown police department in Paramus, New Jersey. I grew up bleeding blue. I am a proud supporter of law enforcement. People, when I was over at CNN, when I used to do your show and others, there are a lot of folks that I am on the same side of now who were not very happy with me because of the position I took supporting law enforcement at a time when it was not popular to do that, because I wanted to bring a different perspective and a more measured perspective on policing at a time when there was a lot of emotion going on.
Right.
And when I worked on Capitol Hill, I was the Aaron Brockovich of a case where I supported 2 Border Patrol agents. I spent 2 years of my career on Capitol Hill advocating for the release of unjustly prosecuted Border Patrol agents, Ramos and Compion. I write about this in my Substack called Dishonoring the Badge, because I am so infuriated and disgusted with the behavior of those federal officers. And so is my husband. And my grandfather, who has left this earth, he died at 90 in 2016, but I can tell you right now, he is spinning in his grave at the dishonor that this behavior is bringing to law enforcement. More law enforcement officers need to stand up and speak out against what the hell is happening here. Because you take an oath. You take an oath, right? To protect and serve. You don't take an oath to terrorize people. And that's what's happening every day. And it's disgusting. And we need to stand up about it.
Yeah, it's not law enforcement, it's lawlessness.
Correct.
It's like, what is this, the Wild West?
Yeah, it's Gestapo tactics.
Posse, and they, and they just put, get a bunch of guys on horses, and it's totally crazy.
Yes, but that's what they want. That's what they want. This
Yeah.
is Donald Trump and Stephen Miller's, wet dream to unleash these people. And I mean, you heard Donald Trump. He wants to use the military and use our cities as a training ground for the military on American citizens. Stephen Miller screaming like a banshee crazy person down in Memphis, talking about you are unleashed. He goes on CNN and other channels and loses his shit because he's challenged about the efficacy and the constitutionality of what's happening here, and slips up and says that Donald Trump has plenary power to do it. Well, no, he doesn't. Plenary power means that it's unchallenged and guaranteed by the Constitution, like pardons. No, that's not true. So we need to stop conditioning the American people that what's happening is okay. God bless the folks
Stephen
in
Miller's
Chicago
blown a
fighting back.
circuit. I mean, he's just blown a circuit. And you and I have known him for a long time.
Yeah, he's a wacko.
He's been in Washington circles for a long time. He's always been a little crazy.
Always.
He's always been a little nutty, a little weird, a little strange, kind of squirrely.
And he's always been a little Nazi
level.
since he was in ninth grade. Rolling Stone did a great profile on him. He's been like this since he was a teenager. So that tells you that this isn't this is a feature, not a bug.
Yeah, there's something weird going on there.
And he's running the country. We should not be okay with this.
And I think some of this, I hate to say it, Tara, is getting baked in among young MAGA kids, MAGA youth, MAGA teenagers, MAGA Gen Zers, if you want to call it that.
Yep.
There was a story that came out in Politico just today. Apparently, there was a Telegram chat that some young Republicans in their groups were using around the country. And I'm just reading from Politico. I don't know if you saw this story, Tara, but
I haven't, but
this
I
just
can
came out
imagine.
this afternoon. They referred to Black people as monkeys and the watermelon people. These are quotes. They say if you screw up, you're going to end up in the gas chamber. They're using that kind of language, talking about loving Hitler and that kind of a thing.
I mean, I saw a video of a guy dressed up in a Hitler costume walking down the street. It was posted on social media.
Yeah.
And it seems like it was a Hispanic man that was in his car filming him, challenging him. And the guy was proudly dressed as Hitler, said that if you come to my house, I'll chop you up and kill you. And like, this is okay now. This is like every day now. I'm not surprised at that. I mean, when
they're talking about
act
these
like
are
a Nazi,
Kansas young Republicans,
Kansas,
New York State young Republicans.
Listen, when you act like a Nazi and you see and you have people out here, like I said, throwing up Nazi signs, like someone like Elon Musk, it was irresponsible. That's how he feels. When you're using language like Donald Trump has used and people around him have used, like vermin, blood and soil, Jews will not replace us. Remember that? Charlottesville, unite the right. There's good people on both sides. I mean, it has gotten more and more blatant. So,
and it's been going on for 10 years now.
Yes, I'm sorry, but Charlie Kirk, who is being lionized by the president of the United States, Seneca Project put out another compilation video that got over 2.5 million views with Charlie Kirk in his own words. He espoused this kind of nonsense and is infecting the minds and indoctrinating the minds of our younger generations. I mean, you give him credit for what he built. It's a hell of a juggernaut, and there's no equivalent on the other side, which is a problem here. We need to start. That's why we do what we do. We need to start countering that. But what do you expect? What do you expect?
No, and there are some Republican senators who apparently want to name a street in D.C. after Charlie Kirk. I don't know if
it's crazy.
It's crazy.
In Oklahoma,
here's the
they're
Politico
threatening
story right here.
People to put up they want to put up statues of him. It's what are we doing here?
This is the Politico story right here. If we ever had a leak of this chat, we would be cooked, is the quote. 7 months of closed-door conversations among rising GOP leaders. And do I like talking about this kind of shit? No. Do I like to repeat that kind of garbage, that language that is being used? Absolutely not. But my concern is, and Tara, I know you and I have talked about this many times over the years. You were a young Republican leader. You were a young campus Republican back in the day at your college.
I was at GW.
What? And to me,
we weren't talking like this. I've got news for you. We were arguing over the merits of like paid volunteerism when AmeriCorps came, when Bill Clinton started AmeriCorps, or whether welfare reform and criminal justice reform were worthy programs and how we should do that. That's what we were arguing over, and healthcare subsidies back in 94, 95, 96. For God's sakes, we weren't talking about this kind of shit.
Yeah, but it's like a permission structure has been created.
Mm-hmm.
An ecosystem has been created for this kind of vile crap, and it's toxic, and I'm worried that it's spreading among young people in this country, and I think that's part of the reason why you need No King's Day.
Yes, it is.
You need to show an alternative, not just for older folks like you and me, slightly older folks. I'm older than you.
Speak for yourself.
I'll speak for myself.
I'm just kidding.
Younger generations out there, maybe people who just haven't made up their mind as to what their belief system is.
Well, just think about it.
They need to see an alternative.
Think about it, Jim. These people have only grown up politically. They've come to their political maturation under Donald Trump and MAGA.
Yeah.
Right? This ilk has been around for 10 years.
Yeah.
It's part of the, when 10 years into my political maturation, I grew up with Reagan and George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton, right?
Yep.
I mean, look at what these people have grown up under. This is a disaster. And so when such bad behavior is rewarded, when you see the moral rot that has been accepted and rewarded by the Republican Party, what do you expect? That's why I left.
But
that's why I left the party, because of this normalization of this kind of ilk. Right,
and there
here
used to be a gatekeeping structure inside the Republican Party.
Yep.
The Bushies, the Reagans, the McCains, the Romneys, that wing of the Republican Party, that establishment wing of the Republican Party, always believed you had to keep the crazy fringe people. You had to put crazy Aunt Edna in the attic. Couldn't let her out of the attic. Crazy Uncle Charlie couldn't come out of the basement. It was like that kind of, you kept them out of the tent.
That's right. That's absolutely
Donald Trump, they've stampeded into the tent, and now that's all that's in the tent.
It is,
by and large.
That is right. It is who the Republican Party is. I just did a panel for the 92nd Street Y. I just taped a panel this afternoon that I think it airs October 23rd. The 92nd Street Y is doing like a democracy conference, and they do this every year. And I did a panel with David French where we talked about the split in the Republican Party. And one of the questions was, is there a split? And I'm kind of like, not anymore. Maybe during the first term, but by now, no, the Republican Party is now MAGA. It is a fascist nationalist populist movement that is run by an authoritarian dictator. It's become a cult, unquestionably. It's now a death cult because we don't believe in science anymore, apparently, and they don't care who it hurts as long as it keeps them in power and enriches their friends and Donald Trump. And there's this obsequiousness that is, I don't think many people anticipated, but there is no split. The party is what it is, which is why I think it should be vanquished and thrown on the ash heap of history, which is partially why we're doing what we're doing as democracy defenders. And frankly, it's one of what we're facing right now, like you said, with the youth and with what people are the choices that are being made every day. It's why I did my TED Talk. I was invited to do a TED Talk recently, and it was really an honor. I'm very humbled that I had a chance to do this, that I can add TED Talk to my resume now.
Amazing.
But it's called Stand Up or Stand By. Is moral courage the revolution we need? And it's really, the full title is Moral and Civic Courage, but I had to shorten it because you can't keep it. It's got to be in a certain amount. So I had to take out civic. But I think because moral courage is what we need to stand up against this.
Absolutely.
People in the Republican Party that could have stopped this. Where are they? They're the enablers.
They are the enablers.
We're here because there were people that were in positions to stop this, and they didn't. And there were those of us who were screaming from the rooftops from day one saying, how can we allow this hypocrisy, this indecency, the lying, all of it, the racism, the misogyny, the anti-Semitism, all of this. What are we doing? It's undemocratic. It's un-American. We should stop this. But we are faced right now with a moral decision. Will you stand up or will you stand by in this moment when history is calling? I think we have a clip of it, no?
The TED Talk video, I don't know. Do we have that one? We might not have that one.
Oh, okay.
We might not have that one. I know we had the...
Oh, no worries.
The Seneca one.
That's okay.
We'll play it next time.
You can folks want to go over and take a look. It's over on the TED Talk YouTube. I will be posting it to my socials. I hope people take a minute and listen. It's only there it is. There we got it.
Do we have it a little bit? We can play a little bit. We're just showing it.
Oh wait, that's from YouTube. I don't know if we're allowed to show it.
Oh, we might not be able to show if it's...
That's okay. It's a still shot of it.
We can't get dinged.
That's all right. I don't want to get in trouble for it, but that's okay. Yeah. If folks can go over there and check it out. I'm going to be posting clips to my.
Well, you're looking good there.
Well, thank you. You know, you gotta be a little glamorous for the.
You gotta sell it.
Millions of people will watch this potentially.
That steak's got to have sizzle, as I say.
I love it.
But Tara, honestly, you hit the nail right on the head when you talk about moral courage. And it's funny, lately, I don't know what it is. Maybe I've been transported to a parallel dimension or something like that. For some reason, Marjorie Taylor Greene has been making a whole hell of a lot of sense to me lately. I don't know why that is. I may have hit my head on something and I woke up in a bizarro world or something like that.
Listen,
she was in the Washington Post today saying that the big problem right now is what she calls weak Republican men.
Listen.
And I'm like, girl, sister, what do we do to bring Marjorie Taylor? Can she show up at No Kings? Now that would be some shit.
Listen.
Don't get ahead of ourselves.
I will say this. I was like, wait, I'm agreeing with Marjorie Taylor Greene. She actually sounds sane. Is the meteor coming? I'm like, should I duck and cover? Because what is happening here?
What's happening?
Look, what she's saying is she's saying the right things. that does not absolve her from the batshit crazy positions and the horrible things that
I
she has
know.
said and done
Yep.
before. Look, if she has legitimately had a come to Jesus moment and like wants to repent for the wacko QAnon things and the horrible stuff that she has said in the past, then we all should have some forgiveness for folks who have repented. But she
Sure.
hasn't done that yet. So I'm like, okay, what you're
Maybe
saying
it's
makes
baby
sense.
steps.
It's baby steps. She's also said all the right things about the Epstein,
Right.
survivors and things like that, which is kind of the first time I perked up and went, is that Marjorie Taylor Greene saying that? But she's
I
also
know.
a very shrewd operator. So we need to take this with a grain of salt. She sees
Yeah.
that there's a split in MAGA. Now there's a split, and that she's trying to see what happens when Donald Trump is no longer around, who's going to come in and take that mantle. And
Mhm.
also a lot of her constituents, they are being impacted negatively. She's finally telling the truth about what Trump is doing and what
That's right.
these MAGA policies are doing to her own people.
She's talking about
Because
the Obamacare premiums. She's
that
been
is
saying like
correct.
her own kids' Obamacare
Yes.
premiums are going to double or something like that
Yes.
if
And
the
she wants to,
Obamacare premiums aren't fixed.
right. She wants to run for statewide office, clearly. Okay.
Yeah.
She's got her sights on something bigger here. So she's trying to
Yeah.
appeal to a wider audience. But if I'm Democrats, I'm cutting those ads with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yes.
Okay, right now, listen, if Seneca Project had the money, if there are folks that want to help fund us to do
You'll
this,
cut some MTG ads.
we would do it right now and run MTG ads in swing districts and
Yeah.
saying, even Marjorie Taylor Greene admits that the Republicans are hurting their own constituents. That's
Mhm.
how you do political asymmetrical warfare with political communications. That's what we do at Seneca. It's only because of shortage of resources that we haven't cut those ads right now. But
Well, I mean, if
we're doing our part where we
I'll,
can.
I'll just extend the invite right now to Marjorie Taylor Greene. If you want to come out to No Kings Day on Saturday, we'd be happy to have you on for our live coverage of No Kings Part 2. The sequel will be better than the original.
Yes.
Listen,
Listen,
and you'll
hey,
be
there's
out there
one in
too.
Atlanta. There's one in Atlanta. I
Maybe
know
she'll
you
be
guys were
there.
going to be in DC, but if she goes to Atlanta, that would be something worthy of covering.
We'll
for
put her
some
out there
folks
live. We'll do it. Maybe, you know what? Just gave me an idea. Don't tell anybody I had this idea. It's because of you and only you, Tara, that I got this idea. But great to see you as always. Thank you so much. We always have
Thank you.
fun. And you don't take me completely seriously when I say a lot of the crazy stuff that I do.
Oh, come on, Jim. First of all, I take everything you say seriously, and I have a sense of humor.
Good.
So it's all good. It's all
all good.
good. Jim, I'll see you this week, my friend. Thank you
All
for
right,
having
sounds
me on.
good. I'll see you this weekend. See you on No Kings. Thanks, Tara. Great to see you as always. And I will say, I mean, maybe I'll just make the end of this show my open invitation to Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't know. Folks may remember there were a couple of incidents here and there where I would go up to Capitol Hill, and I asked one time Marjorie Taylor Greene, she put out a tweet about martial law, but she misspelled Marshall. I asked about, and she got really mad at me and she yelled at me and she did all this stuff. And so there are a couple of videos out there if you want to take them in for your viewing pleasure. But I will say, past being prologue, if she wants to start saying things that she's been saying lately, like the Epstein files should be released, that the Obamacare premiums should get fixed, and that one of the big problems right now in MAGA and the Republican Party is that you have weak Republican men. I mean, I'm slightly aroused. I will just say, maybe I shouldn't admit that on a podcast where the viewers can see this and the videotape can be saved for later. But I am somewhat intrigued. Perhaps that's the better word. Strike aroused. Take that out of the record. Matt will cut that out later on. We won't air that later. We'll just say slightly intrigued by why is Marjorie Taylor Greene making so much sense right now? I don't understand. If somebody could explain it to me, I would really like to understand what's happening. But I will say, and this is not a knock on Democrats. It is a little bit of a knock on Democrats. But why is it that Marjorie Taylor Greene is I don't know, she's sounding more effective right now than some in the Democratic Party. Maybe I'm just a little loopy on a Tuesday. I saw the subscriber comment there saying, don't trust her, Jim. I get it. Can folks take a joke out there? I'm being somewhat facetious. Every so often, irreverent Jim comes out, and perhaps that was a little bit right there. But the substance of what she is saying is true. There are weak Republican men inside the GOP right now. There are weak Republican men who will not stand up to Donald Trump. They won't do it. Who are the Republicans who are standing up to Donald Trump when it comes to the Epstein files? Women in the Republican Party, by and large, Tom Massey being an exception. It's women. She's saying that the Obamacare premiums, yes, they're going to hit people in the wallet. There's no question about it. In the bank account, there's no question about it. So a lot of what she's saying is making sense, and a lot of what she has said in the past has not made any sense whatsoever. I get it, the space lasers and everything else, none of that made any sense. Believe me, I've gone up and confronted her on all of that. But there's something going on. If somebody can help me figure it out, I would really appreciate it. But in the meantime, thanks everybody for tuning in on this Tuesday. I want to thank Congressman Jim Himes of Connecticut for joining me, and my friend Tara Setmayer, who allows me to be a bit of a cut up from time to time. And perhaps that's the reason why I'm in the mood that I'm in right now. But perhaps you guys will give me a pass today for being a little goofy here at the end of the show. But thanks again for watching. Still reporting from Washington, I'm Jim Acosta. Have a good evening.